Hey, so I did my mall walking, but I only got 6.5 hours in, or 6.5 miles, 6.5 hours, 6.5 miles done. And it took me over 2 hours. So I didn't want to do a 4 hour stint at the mall. So I did just the 6.5 miles, which was still actually really good. Um, but I got an email from a holistic doctor who I contacted yesterday about following me during this fast. And she had asked me if I would be okay doing a consult over the internet. And I thought, it's coronavirus. I can do our first consult over it's probably just a meet and greet kind of thing anyway. So I agreed. And I get a follow-up email saying that she's taking her business completely 100% virtual. Now, guys, you may not know a lot about medicine because most people just kind of rely on their doctors to do it, and they expect and know that they're trained to do it and that they know what they're talking about and that they'll do a good job. I want to read you in the textbook for internal medicine. I think I've got the first. Nope, that's volume 1 or volume 2. So in the textbook. Oh, sorry. So when a doctor is going to school, the first chapter, before they're allowed to go into any kind of systems, internal medicine, cardiology, whatever it is, they talk about the first component of medicine, and in order to treat anybody, is a physical component. Your hands, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, being able to communicate and get responses back so that you have the information to diagnose, are huge. Huge. If somebody says that I have an earache, you have to be able to look in the ear to see what the earache is from. If somebody says that I'm bleeding, you need to be able to take a sample of blood and look under the microscope, not send it off to a lab. You need to physically look with your eyes at that sample. Physically look at that sample. There are things that you will not catch if a machine is doing your job. When I went to that hospital, my cuff was reading 245 over 145. I had the headache. I was having chest symptoms. I went to the ER. Their cuff was reading 198 over 110. Lower, but still really high. They come in, 3 different people, and they stick me 7 times and they can't find a vein. They're searching for a vein and they can't find a vein. Now, granted, I actually didn't put 2 and 2 together either. And I'm actually disappointed in myself because I should have known the second that they couldn't find a pulse in my AC and that they couldn't find a vein in a woman who supposedly had a blood pressure of 198 over 110. There's a little problem. You can't have that blood pressure and not be able to find a vein. They stick out of your hands. You can see your pulse from a distance at 198 over 110. I don't even have to feel for a pulse because I can usually sit there and see it. because the veins are bulging. And of course, it took me until I got home to get this, but I knew something was up and I should not take the blood pressure medicine that they were prescribing me. Number one, first thing, you don't throw medicine at something that you don't know what the problem is. Don't do it. Don't fall into the house category where you just start throwing medicines at people to see if it kills them. And if it kills them, then you got the right one, the right diagnosis. That's not how you do it. That's not medicine. That's Russian roulette. When you have a blood pressure at 4 o'clock in the morning that's 106/77 in the hospital, and the doctor still wants to put you on blood pressure medicines to treat the 198/110, you'll die in your sleep. Your blood pressure's at that low, with blood pressure medicine on top of that, you'll die. Done. Turned out, my blood pressure was so low, when I felt for a pulse when I got home, I couldn't find it. I'm good at finding pulses. I had a hard time finding it. It was thready. It was thready and barely there. But my blood pressure cuff couldn't pick up my blood pressure. It was so low that it couldn't pick it up. So it was reading it high. I'll show you a trick. Put your blood pressure cuff on backwards and watch your blood pressure say that it's humongously high because it can't find the pressure. That's a machine. If that doctor had actually physically done my blood pressure, touched and done an actual blood pressure to confirm that blood pressure, knowing that if they can't find a vein and my pressure is that high, that something's wrong. Something's really wrong. So she says she wants to take her whole practice 100% online, where she can't touch you, she can't feel you, she can't see if your liver is too large, you're vomiting, you have a stomach ache, you're vomiting up bile, and she doesn't do the exam, and she misses the fact that you've got a liver issue, not the stomach flu. You're dead. You can't practice medicine over the internet. Can't do it. I don't do it. When I tell people protocols and things like that, it is not to take the place of a doctor. It is not to say that I know what's going on with you, because I absolutely don't know what's going on with you. 100% don't know what's going on with you. You can give me classic symptoms of something, and my brain's automatically going to jump to one thing. But because I haven't felt you, I haven't seen you, I haven't heard you, I'm not taking in all that information. Your hands are the most amazing tools that you will ever see in medicine. There is no gadget that does a better job than your hands. None. No gadget that does a better job than your eyes and your brain or your ears. Listening to a chest sounds, heart sounds, you can't do that over, you can't do it. You can't do it. That's why I fired my doctor. Me telling him what to do over email, because he wasn't asking for the blood work, he wasn't asking for things to get done. That's not okay. That's not okay. It should be, you know what? I hear that you are worried. I hear that you are worried about specific things. You want to have tests done for specific things. Come into the office and let me do an exam. Let's look at this and see if the symptoms are consistent with what you're worried about. Let's listen to you. Let's see what it is that you're upset about. You're having chest pains. You can't breathe. Your O2 sats are going down. you're having all this stuff, and then the whole world is panicking over COVID virus, and all of your people on your plane are dying. All these people on the boat are dying. Of course you're worried. Of course you think you have it when you have those symptoms. Of course. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? And for somebody that knows a little bit about medicine, of course you know which test to ask for. Of course. You know. Well, I'm worried about this. So can you do this test for me so that I can see if it is actually increased or decreased? Do this test for me so that I can either reassure myself that it's not this and I'm not going to die, or do this test for me that I can see that, yes, I'm actually having these symptoms from this specific thing, and I do need to actually be more cautious. I shouldn't be going out. I shouldn't be going over to Costco, even with a mask on. I shouldn't be doing these things if that's really what's going on. Those things are important to me. Keeping you safe is important to me. If I know that I am carrying something that can hurt somebody, that's important to me to know. You know, I can't protect you 100%, but if I know what it is that I'm protecting you from, I can do a better job of it. Use your hands, your eyes, your ears, your gut instinct. But never rely on gut instinct alone. You can't listen to somebody or read an email and know that this person can't talk in a full sentence without having to take 3 breaths. You can't do that. You can't sit there and say that you are stable over an email. That's impossible. Unless you have some magic trick that I don't know about, that's impossible. It's malpractice. You don't need to be a doctor. If you think that you can do a good job as a doctor by email or over a teleconference call, please step down. Please step down. You don't need to be doing your job anymore. You need to hand it over to someone who still relies on their hands, their eyes, their ears, and all of those things that God gave us that are way more sophisticated than any test you can do. And if you stop using those things, the first things that you learned in that first chapter, just like if you stop using what you learned in kindergarten, it's not gonna go well. Somebody's gonna die. So, that's my take on it. I know about fear. When I was on that airplane, we're trained to react to a problem. We're not trained to assess too much about our own safety other than to look at the scene and make sure that the scene is safe. I was already in a scene that was not safe. My environment wasn't going to change regardless if I helped or not. So granted, I already knew I was exposed. So helping people on a plane that I knew were very, very ill and getting in their face to help treat them was not a huge stretch. It's not the same thing as somebody who can sit at home and know that they're not going to get exposed unless they physically go into the office and see someone that's sick. So I do know that there is a little bit of a leap there that you have to take in order to treat patients that are sick. But I completely expect, for a doctor and a nurse, medical personnel, to take that risk. And I can't think of a better way of my life ending than if it ended helping others. If my life ended because I helped those patients on the plane, I can't think of a better way of going out. We're all going to go out, right? Like I'm under the impression that we're all going to die. So if we're all going to die and we're all going to say goodbye to the world, and we don't know why or when or how, but God said, I'll let you choose how you go out. I couldn't think of a better way, honestly. I really can't. If I went out because I was helping somebody else relieve their suffering, it's a hero's demise. And I can't tell you that you have to choose somebody's life over your own. That you did when you became a doctor. That you did when you became a nurse. That you did when you became a medic or a paramedic or all of these different things where you chose a job that would endanger your life in order to help others. And if you're rethinking that, then you do need to step down. It's time. It's time to reevaluate it and say, is this worth it to me? And if it's not worth it to you, then stop. Don't offer something online where you're offering something that is so substandard where you will end up killing so many patients. So many patients by saying, I'm a doctor, I can fix this over the internet. If you say that, not only are you lying, but you are telling somebody that you want them to pay you to do 5% of what a doctor needs to be doing. Because only about 5% of what you're doing, yes, you'll be able to look at them. Maybe if you're actually doing teleconferencing, you'll be able to look at them. So you'll be able to see some things. But if somebody says, my ear's hurting, and I've got like this. Sure, you might know some symptoms, but you have to be able to look in that ear. You can't do that from a distance. You have to be, I'm just so disappointed. There's so many parts of our system that are failing. Don't be one of those parts. Please, don't be one of those parts. I'm begging you to please be the part in the system that not only gets something good out of this virus and you step up your skills and you make sure that you are doing those physical exams at every single visit, that you are doing a head to toe, that you are doing, focused exams. If they're coming in with chest pain, then you are going in your head saying, okay, what can cause chest pain? And you're doing those systems. You're checking those systems. I haven't had a doctor check systems, physically check systems in so long. Probably since Dr. Bloomfield in Denver, Colorado was the last time that I had a doctor actually do an exam when I went in to actually go into an office visit. And maybe Dr. LeMayo actually did some as well. It's more than just listening to the heart. It's more than just listening to the lungs. It's more than that. It's so much more than that. Please, do not assume that you can do your job over the internet.